The Cooperative Extension Service, University of Maryland System presents Using Pesticides Safely, a 6-part training series for registered technicians. Program 6 explains the practice of IPM, Integrated Pest Management. You'll learn about pest thresholds and how to monitor pests before applying pesticides. You'll learn why beneficials and natural enemies are so important. And finally, you'll see how pesticides can become part of an IPM program.
IPM, Integrated Pest Management, is the use of many methods to reduce pests to acceptable levels. These methods include good sanitation, resistant crops, traps, screens, natural predators, as well as pesticides. Successful IPM programs in agriculture, forestry, landscape, and turfgrass have helped cut down on unnecessary pesticide use. That usually means less harm to the environment and less money spent by the producer. The basic assumption of integrated pest management is that there is a tolerable level of pests. Instead of trying to kill all the pests all the time, the idea is to reduce the pests down to a level we can live with. If the pests are below that tolerable level or threshold, you take no action. The key to integrated pest management is regular inspections and monitoring. Some types of insects and other animals are good because they actually help control pests. Those that eat pests are called predators. Others lay their eggs inside pests. These are called parasites. Predators and parasites are also referred to as beneficials or natural enemies. You must know how many pests there are and whether there are enough beneficials to control the pests. But often, pesticides are needed as part of the IPM program. All IPM programs have threshold levels of some sort. In mosquito control, technicians count the number of bites on a bare arm in a minute, or the average number of mosquito larvae per dipper, or the number of mosquitoes in a trap to see if mosquitoes have reached a level where they need to treat. Thresholds are commonly used now for pests of trees, shrubs, turfgrass, and crops. IPM needs some kind of monitoring system in order to work. Monitoring means that plants, sites, traps, or whatever are inspected on a regular basis. Usually you'll be checking for pests and counting to see how many there are. You'll also be looking for beneficials, predators, or parasites that might be keeping the pests in check. And you'll be looking for damage. Put it all together and you can tell whether or not you need to take action. Let's see how an actual IPM program works. Mark Harden is a scout in an IPM program for landscape trees and shrubs around homes. Every 2 weeks during the growing season, he visits each home on his route. For each yard, he has a landscape map identifying all trees and shrubs on the property. He inspects each plant for general condition, pests and parasites, and predators. Actually, he doesn't inspect them all equally. He knows when certain pests are most likely to appear and which plants are most likely to have a problem. Today, he's checking the holly for holly leaf miner, the azaleas for azalea lacebug, and he's checking the trap he set out for borers. For each pest, he has a predetermined threshold level, below which he does nothing. In fact, sometimes he does nothing even when the threshold is exceeded. For example, he's found more aphids on this maple tree than the threshold will allow. But he's also noticed high numbers of ladybird beetles, which feed on the aphids. So he'll wait to see if the beetles can knock down the aphid population by themselves. And if he does decide to use an insecticide, he'll use one that will be the least harmful to the ladybird beetles. IPM isn't always the answer. Try asking a homeowner to give you a threshold level for cockroaches or termites. They'll tell you flat out 0. They simply won't accept any. But even when a total IPM program isn't the best answer, you can still use some of the philosophy, the techniques, and the strategies of IPM in your control efforts. Speaking of IPM techniques, let's look at some of them. Cultural control methods include many of the oldest methods of managing agricultural pests. Simply plowing a field can uproot and destroy certain weeds, insects, and fungi. And planting different crops instead of the same one year after year breaks the life cycle of pests that can survive on only one kind of crop. Sanitation is important to almost every IPM program. Sanitation doesn't just mean cleaning. It also means eliminating the food and hiding places that attract pests. Rats are much easier to control if dumpsters are kept closed and trash cleaned up. Picking up branches and dead wood cuts down the number of wood borers and bark beetles. Mechanical and physical controls are also important tools, especially in urban pest management. A simple window screen is the best example I can give of an inexpensive yet very effective mechanical control. Insect electrocutors, called bug zappers, kill flying insects inside food plants, restaurants, and other enclosed areas. Mosquitoes are controlled by simply eliminating the standing water in which they breed. Sticky substances are used to repel birds and squirrels and to capture rodents, flies, and cockroaches. The list of mechanical and physical controls goes on and on. In agriculture and horticulture, scientists have developed new plant varieties that are more resistant to damage from pests. We've mentioned using natural enemies to help control pests. Sometimes these natural enemies are raised in laboratories and then released in large numbers to control pests. This is called biological control. Biological control also includes releasing organisms that make pests sick. An example is milky spore disease, an insect fungus that's used to kill Japanese beetle grubs in lawns. Pesticides are used in IPM programs too, but only when pests exceed the threshold level, and then usually only as spot treatments rather than general cover spraying. We now have products that are only slightly toxic to people, but very toxic to certain insects. Products such as insect growth regulators don't usually kill the insect outright, but they prevent it from becoming an adult, or they sterilize it so that it can't reproduce. As I said at the beginning, IPM offers the least threat to the environment and good profits to the user. Come to think of it, that should be the goal of all pest control, whether you call it IPM or not. And that's a good note to end this program on. After watching this program, you should be able to answer a few key questions. The written answers to the questions are included in the video program package. If you can't answer correctly, review the program. Ready? Here goes. 1. What is IPM? 2. What is a pest threshold and why is it important? 3. What are beneficials or natural enemies? 4. How can you monitor for pests? 5. Can pesticides be part of an IPM program?